Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pineless Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios, and I have online here with me from the great Midwest 1RDV. And tonight's movie we're going to be discussing with you guys is Léon the Professional from 1994, a Luc Besson film. RDV, I know this is a first watch for you. It's not for me, but I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters. Did you know this movie is about a perfect assassin, an innocent girl? They have nothing to lose. It's hard to be serious about it. There's nothing left to lose except each other. This is not an action film to me. This is a drama. What's your take?
This is a movie I saw bits and pieces of it in an independent film channel back in the day when Spectrum had it, or when it was known as Time Warner.
Yep.
And I watched a bit of it and I turned it off because it was boring. Well, I didn't watch it from the beginning. I was flipping channels. I know you had that, and I was like, what is this? And like, I had no idea it was even Natalie Portman. I just figured this was some foreign French film, you know?
Right.
Because when I saw it was Jean Reno, or I did not see that Gary Oldman was in this. And honestly, this movie's a mess.
Interesting.
Gary Oldman's character he's a
Creepy
cop,
bastard.
I guess. He's a cop, I guess. Somehow he's able to unbelievably just spin the narrative that he's like, that he's a good guy when he does so much wrong. He's sloppy about it. He's taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so
French
fantasy.
Yep.
But Jean Reno is pretty good in this. I like his little impersonation of John Wayne in this. But overall, the story is pretty much is that a hitman, professional hitman. We see him in the beginning. He does his thing, he's
Great
like a
opening
ghost.
scene.
Yeah, awesome. And then so he lives next door to Natalie Portman, who's like a young, just troubled kid. Her dad's a piece of shit. Her stepmom, is horrible. She hates her older sister. The only one she gets along with is her 40-year-old brother, who basically does cuddles with her. He doesn't say anything whatsoever. And turns out we meet Gary Oldman's character, who shows up. We don't know who he is. As far as I don't even know, at the point in the movie, you don't even know he's a cop. The way he acts.
Exactly.
There's no badges whatsoever.
It's a heavy.
So apparently he's running drugs. He's a drug runner, or not drug runner, but he's basically a drug pusher. And this guy, pretty much, her father, turns out he's basically was cutting his drugs without his permission, and he wants his money, and so he gives the guy till the next day, to noon. Comes back. She had gone out to go get milk for Léon because she's been basic in the hallways. They talk and stuff, and he knows that she's got bruises and stuff, and she's finished her smoking. Right, she's about 12, and so when he ends up basically her whole family gets slaughtered by Gary Oldman and his crew,
Including
yeah. And the dumbest thing is that these are supposed to be like police officers or whatever. They are incompetent. They're so incompetent. You don't even need Léon to take them out. She could have took them out if the writing was good.
It was a bit Keystone Cop-ish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just so weird. It was like Barney Fife level of incompetence.
I think so Luc Besson did La Femme Nikita, which I thought was an interesting idea. Whatever you take, basically it's brainwashing, it's programming, whatever you want to call it. He took a drug dealing woman that killed somebody. They pronounced her dead after, or whatever like that, but they really forced her to be an assassin. Interesting concept, made into a TV shows and endless stuff. Hannah, came later. This done again.
Government agents,
I think this might have been his first take at trying to Americanize what he thought would be slick, stylish Hong Kong type action. So it is kind of weird to watch it.
The big heavy in this for carrying this movie is Gary Oldman's acting. Gary Oldman plays a complete psychopath in this, which is really believable.
Yeah.
And, Jean Reno, he's kind of quiet, everyday Frenchman. I guess he's Italian or whatever. I don't know. They keep calling him Italian in this, but the big star in this though that I thought was really cool in here too was Danny Aiello. Danny Aiello being the guy who hands out the assignments, and so it's kind of cool to see him pop up in here. And Natalie Portman's character is kind of annoying in this. Like I said, apparently this, what does I say for the IMDb or how much it got made over? I'm curious, what the heck is the budget for this movie? Because it seems so low budget. But apparently, so many people like this movie, and honestly, I don't understand how it got an 8.5 out of 10.
People loved it.
Yeah.
I think they loved it because honestly, look, this time here in the early to mid '90s, action films were changing, right? They're
Yes.
becoming like big budget type spectacles. You've
Mhm.
got a European guy here, a French dude, who's got some great imagery in here. They're in a scuzzy part of New York City, and that doesn't mean that Little Italy is entirely scuzzy, but they deliberately wanted to basically be in a disgusting part of it. This guy captured the filth and disgustingness of 1990s New York. I give him credit for it. There's some great scenes in here. It feels very grimy and skanky in here too. And when he's walking up to his room and she's sitting there kind of straddling over the stairs smoking or whatever, it's like, what? How old are you, girl? And all that too. But I tell you, I was trying to remember if this was more like sexy kind of like action or if this was like something else because it's been forever since I've seen it. But I tell you, the scene that gets me is when Gary Oldman team goes in there to slaughter the family, and she's coming home from getting the milk a little after 12, and she like sees like the body and a henchman at the door, and she just keeps walking straight to the door, and Gene's looking out, watching what's going on, not getting involved because it's none of his thing and all that. He doesn't know. And she rings the doorbell. I thought, oh God, that was so cool looking that she's smart and quick thinking on her toes, where she's ringing the doorbell. And from the doorbell's perspective, you see the guy watching her, and she's sitting there like crying, like, please, please, please answer the door, let me in. And that's the big stress thing, is it going to involve himself in her life, which he does open the door and lets her in. And then the guy comes up and look, and you see him. And the actual action here, we'll talk about separately. To me, I like the build up towards it. Like here, the guy's looking at the window, kind of like listening, and he puts his gun where he thinks the guy's going to be. That's cool stuff. And there's some great visuals, like when he starts to teach her about how to like kill people and rules and stuff when they're on top of the building. He's got the sniper rifle, and he's showing her, hey, the lens flare, you do that at the last minute, always be darker than the ground you're on, all that stuff. And I thought, there's some really cool stuff in here. Like he does not want to be doing this. I thought you're right. Gene, I thought did a great job of being basically tired in his position, didn't want to get involved. They could have even done it even more, but it's really about, I think, Natalie Portman, in a way, an abused young woman coming of age, not knowing what a stable relationship is.
I kind of feel like I've seen this movie before with Jason Statham, though. Seriously.
Well, Luc Besson was all involved in all the transporters.
Yeah. Well, are you
sure? Have more refined those? Yeah, absolutely. Go look it up.
Was the writer only, right?
Could be a writer and or director.
You were looking it up. You said he didn't direct any of them. He just was just a writer.
But the themes, right?
Yeah. Yes, pretty much a guy who basically is a heavy, assassin. Has his rules. Rules are broken when he protects a girl, and he pays for it at the end. And that's kind of at this movie. The ending sucks. The ending did not make sense whatsoever. The ending was rushed, like he just wanted to end the movie. He's such a professional, but yeah, he allows a guy to get the jump on him. It was kind of far fetched. But
well, let's talk about the buildup before that, because this is interesting how they meet, and I just want to get the obvious thing out of the way, because I had asked you offline if you remembered what version you saw, because mine was well over 2 hours, and I think yours was too.
Yeah, it's 2 hours too long.
There's apparently the American version, which you go, hey, is this girl like coming on him a little bit? She's 12, 13. You can understand crushes and all that, right? Coming of age. Then apparently there's longer versions that have a lot more of Natalie Portman's story in it. And the version that I saw, and I was going to ask you this, there's a scene in there where she's dressing up, and she's basically dressing up as I'm going to call it, for lack of a better term, the cute, polite word that was used since the 40s and 50s.
Pink dress? Yeah.
A bunny. Okay?
Yeah.
So she's dressing up like,
a Lolita.
Exactly, a Lolita type thing. And it's great that he didn't go there. I think they actually wrote them consummating the relationship at one point in the script. Seriously. And I'm not making that up. And the reason I'm bringing that here is because if you see some of these scenes in here, he does buy her this really nice dress. It's like, yeah, that's kind of sexual, I think. I mean, it was a nice dress, but I mean, for a 12-year-old, the whole point is he's reluctant to get her involved because he knows it's not a good way of life. So he's trying to take a paternal path to her. And what I thought was really great was how they built up to this, because even though he lets her in and he talks to her and all that, she leaves for the day because she's bored. She's got nowhere to go. She was going to go to a nice school, and her dad, being a bum, it didn't pay or whatever it was and all that.
Yeah.
So she's got nothing to do, and her family hates her, and they all get whacked. You're like, fuck, this is brutal. But this scene was really good, and this is where Besson shines. Is she goes literally back into the apartment. And she kind of like talks her way past the guard. She sneaks into the door, and she's going because there's some money that she knows hidden and some personal effects in the floorboard, right? I'm like, okay, this is cool. But at the same time it happens, here comes Gary Oldman, who's honestly, I know people liked him in Dracula and other stuff. I think he's evil in here. I mean, he's just I don't know how to say it, but his delivery is perfect. It's really creepy. The
way this whole movie is, you have the villain, Gary Oldman splatters his performance pretty much out of everything. And then you have Gene Reno, who basically does nothing. He's quiet. Probably his best part of performance was in the beginning here.
Yeah, I agree.
And then as the movie goes on, done up until the very end, where we start to see, okay, that's a guy from the beginning of the movie, because we haven't seen him forever.
Right.
It's been an hour and a half. I'm like, where's the original guy? Where's the professional?
Mm-hmm. And
at the end, like I said, he basically they bring in the SWAT team in to take him out and everything, after they kidnap the girl.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that scene.
Yeah. But I mean, but the middle part was kind of, to me, it was just kind of like dragging on forever.
Well, like I say, it's not an action film to me. It's a drama.
And I know. And that's just one of the reasons I don't like these movies when they're 2-hour dramas. You don't need 2 hours of drama.
Well, the point is it was sold to you, I think.
No, I know.
Sniper and all that. And okay, he's a professional hitman. He's going to. No, it's not. And so when she's in there getting the money and trying to sneak out, when he comes in there, this is nice camera work and stuff like that. Like I say, the shot on top, looking over at Central Park or whatever it was, is phenomenal. Like, okay, this is cool. He actually lets her shoot like a die pack from the sniper rifle at some rando jogging in Central Park or whatever. I'm like, this is kind of cool. And so here's the thing where I thought things got interesting potentially, and they kind of deviated from it, is that the money that she took that she knew was stashed there, she basically said, hey, look, I want you to hire you to kill my family because I want my revenge. Is like, no, this is not a good place to go. You need to let go of it. And so you're right.
Oh, she wanted him to kill the detective.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So she's got nothing left. So what does she want? Well, she wants a revenge, and she wants him to get it. So she's like, well, I'll learn how to do it, this, that, or whatever. And then there's one scene in here that was actually pretty intense where she basically is like calling his bluff about how serious she is with doing Russian roulette. And then at the last minute, he turns her hand away and the gun goes off, and it was a great gunshot. And she looks at him, and I thought this was her only really good scene.
That was a good scene, but I said like a lot of stuff could have been cut out.
I think in the shorter Americanized version, they cut out a lot of her backstory with her doing like the Marilyn Monroe, who was like a sex bot back in the 50s and 60s, and she's dancing was he didn't know who they were, like a virgin. He damn it, Madonna, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, whatever. And so I guess that was supposed to be meant to be cute, but for her backstory, it takes on a sexual tone because she talks and she says things to him somewhat innocently, but it's very sexual in context about how important it is to have her first time and this and that. And then basically she's like, okay, well, we won't do anything, but I want you to sleep with me in bed. And he lays there like cuddling her. And I'm like, I kind of look,
see,
there's nothing wrong with Europeans being open about their sexuality in a way that's different than the American generalized Puritan instincts. Because even though things are progressive today, we don't see a lot of skin and sexual stuff on TV. We hear a lot of talk, and we get all the progressive stuff about diversity and stuff, right? But when I saw all this, I'm like, was that really needed? And you're right. I think what happened is they took a lot of those scenes out, so you would see her as this innocent girl just looking to get her revenge, and they eliminated that whole coming into her womanness, if you will, and all that too, because that's obviously there, and that's what he wrote it about.
Yes. And Desiree Rose, to bring up what I was going to talk to you about, it's not that she wanted anything sexual. There's nothing, they were not implying anything sexual is going to happen between them or whatsoever. It's the fact that she had a crush on him, because the fact that he was the first person that actually gave a damn about her. She didn't want to jump his bones or anything like that.
I disagree.
No.
I think like a lot of young women,
I think you're confused with it. I think you're confused with the director, because the director was Luc Besson.
I understand that. I think it's quite obvious that I think it's when you have a young woman that talks that talk but doesn't understand the implications of her actions. That's what we're talking about here too. She would have done it,
She
absolutely.
wanted to grow up because she hated her childhood. She didn't have a childhood.
Exactly.
When
She's
she,
beaten, she's abused, she's
yes,
got daddy issues. She's
yes.
exactly the kind of girl that
But
would do stuff like that.
but you said like he's a guy who's never, he's been alone. He had one person that was when he was 19, a girlfriend, I don't know, but he locked out on that and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, so he's lonely, but he has no attraction whatsoever. She might be, she's twisted, she's confused, but no, but he's not.
She'll have a crush on the guy, a month later. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And it's normal for 12-year-old girls. They get crushes on people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
don't disagree.
Yes, but there's nothing perverse about it though. On the story,
I didn't say it was perverse. No. I just said it was very sexual in nature, and I said it was very.
I didn't think it was sexual in nature whatsoever.
Well, we disagree on that, and I think we may have seen the same print. We may not have, and I know some people in chat are talking about they may have seen prints where they didn't see some of that stuff. Yeah. We're mentioning it because I think one of the things that like we talk about here on Extreme Movie Show is that this might be available here in America, like under Tubi or the Internet Archive or Prime or wherever it's going to be. And we both know, you being the big physical media guy and wanting to pimp that out all the time, which I think is a great idea, is everybody goes back that owns this IP and they go back and they selectively edit what you can watch later on. So if this was available, say on Amazon, they may have cut all the stuff out. And you may not have realized if you were a collector that you could have had the extended director's cut that might have had this or that or stuff in it that makes a big difference. Changing some dialogue here and there, touching it up and overdubbing, and we don't know about it. So, it's significant because I remember at the time going like okay, I remember he's a hitman and she's young and she's got to get revenge and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of didn't remember all the drama in between. And here, obviously, with the long version, they definitely put it out because you're right. These cops are absolutely dumb and stupid. Yeah, it's a complete joke.
The one I watched is 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Okay. I think that was the one I watched as well.
Yeah. But like I said, overall, I would expect going in this movie, I knew it was going to be a drama, but I figured, I didn't think it was going to be 2 hours. So when I got 2 hours, and I was like, great. And then I got about half an hour in, I realized, it's not going to be one of those where he goes in there and takes out, him doing one-man war. Because basically, if this would have been a much later movie with Jason Statham, you would have got him being like, well, it's go time to kill the crack cop, get
with a giant shark.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying it would have turned more into an action movie. This is more about, I'm opening my heart and I'm longer lonely anymore just to die at the end. It was stupid.
Well, what did you think of the fact that as we're getting towards the end of the movie that she decided, even though he was teaching her and all that too, that she took it upon herself to kind of start doing things on her own. She started following him, and then she went to go kill him, and she talked her way into where he lives because she followed him, which I thought was kind of cool. And then she basically follows him into the men's room, and she's got like a Chinese bag or whatever it is, Italian bag or something. And it's packed with guns. She was going to whack him. I thought that was kind of cool. Like, shit, what I get myself into.
Yeah, she went to the police department. She's gonna whack him in the men's room there.
Yeah, I liked it. I was like, okay, this is
this is another problem I have with when you have kids in like stuff. Kids are stupid. This is why I don't like kids like in The Walking Dead. They always cause problems, and she pulled the same thing, the Henry thing, and now it wouldn't have been much smarter, like if she would have it was planned for him to go in there because her to go in there, distract him, but apparently it shows you how incompetent Leon is. By Leon, basically he's never raised a kid before. He has rules. She broke the rules. So while it turns out he actually was going to go take out her remember she basically wanted the killers. People kill their family, be dead. Kill their brother. So she didn't give a shit about the rest of them. She only had to like their brother. And so he started doing that. He took out the Chinese guys, and then he took out the two other guys, the other cops. And she screwed it up. Because if she would have not have done that, he would have taken them out professionally, and they both would have lived happily ever.
Yeah, and so I think that's again the whole gist of the movie. And there's a scene in here. I know I was saying in chat that she didn't realize it'd be over 2 hours, but there's a scene where he's out on the floor, or he's out doing something, doing a killing or whatever, and she's out smoking because she smokes when he's not around, right?
Yes,
She doesn't
yes.
follow the rules. And she's sitting by herself, like between buildings, and these group of like 4 or 5 dudes, you know, like her age, roughly, walk up
Kids,
and
yeah.
start harassing her. Yeah, it costs you $10 to sit there a month. And so instead of like shooting them or getting into a fight or something or whatever, showing her character, she just basically pulled out a wad of money, which I think those guys would have rolled her. She slips them 100 and says, okay, I'll pay you another 100 for the next 6 months. She goes, well, now, does this mean that, you know, I have to put up with you guys? No, okay, then get the hell out of here. I'm like, okay, it was different. But that would have been a scene that you could have easily deleted. I don't know what effect it had on everything other than flashing.
It was shown that she was slowly being corrupt.
I guess.
Remember, at this point, she just wanted everyone to be killed. She wanted revenge. The only person she cared about was her brother. But I want to bring up specifically its scene with Aiello. What basically he told Gene Reno, he said, it's like, oh, you got a woman in your life? Well, that's bad. It's going to
women are problems.
Yes,
why do you want your money? Remember, I brought you over here.
Because he went in there. He said, if anything happens to me, I want her to have my money and stuff, you know. And he's like, you got to get rid of this girl. This girl doesn't belong in here. And honestly, and that's what happens. Like I said, like this, the ending was stupid because, like I said, I can't talk about this movie anymore. I'm just going to go right to the ending. The ending, because of her, they found out where she lives, you know, and they basically grab her, and then Gary Oldman sets in a SWAT team, you know, basically to take her out, to take them out while they're holding her hostage while they're in there. Otherwise, she's even in there, but they had her, you know, and they go in there, and the first group's in there. They don't see where he is, and then you see him, like his finger, because he's doing a Spider-Man thing. He's upside down. He's
doing a ninja thing where he's hiding up in the ceiling.
Yeah,
because we see him doing these sit-ups all the time.
Yeah, so he's able to pull himself, even with her too. Yep. And he just takes out the guys, and then they keep trying to take him out, and then eventually he gets a drop on him, and he basically gets her back, and then he shoots a fire sprinklers, right? So basically he can't see anything because it's all coming down.
Yep.
And he leaves the one guy he'd hold hostage there, and they close the door behind him. So then they think that's him. He's incompetent. These cops are.
Yeah, they just light him up.
They just light him up. I said, like, there's no professionalism whatsoever in this whole entire movie, and and I laugh about it because it's ironic. So back in there, they get the fire axe, and he basically goes to the ventilation shaft, and he's basically, his goal is to get her out of there because she's gonna get him killed.
Yes, because
she is a nuisance. And he basically, he cuts open the shaft with the axe, and then he basically says, "Bitch, leave." And she's like, "I don't want to leave you." He's like, "You're gonna get me killed. Go." You know. So she leaves, and she takes his plant with him. And that's when I know when she takes the plant, I knew he was gonna die because she's taking the plant. She's going by herself, and he's raised, you know, so she goes. She walks out. You know, he does a smart thing. You know, he basically grabs one of the dead guys in the apartment because they fire basically a mortar round in there.
Yeah, look, we've joked about cops being buffoons and all that, but the one thing they've all done is we've seen a lot here in Florida. Man, people rolling up on you for a traffic ticket, and they've got 20 cop cars, and they got the SWAT, and they got the dogs, and they got this, that. It's overkill, but that's what they do. And here, you're right. They show the mortar around, all that. Like, what the fuck are they doing? They're trying to bring somebody in because he's like, bring me the cops, bring me everybody. And when it goes off, he's yelling. He's like, "You guys can't get him." I said, get one man, not take out the whole floor.
Yeah. So he sneaks out by taking the uniform, one of the dead cops, puts it on his gas mask, goes out there, and they're like, "Oh, it's one of ours. He's injured. Can't help him downstairs." And as he goes down there, and then as he's sitting there, and he's got the mask off, Gary Oldman recognizes him over there. He's like, "Holy shit, it's him!" So then he basically waits and he hides in the corner, and he tells everybody to leave. Says, and then you see Leon just hopping out there. I'm gonna make it.
And it's her perspective, so you see the sunshine on the car outside the door. The doors are open, and he's walking.
Light, and he sees the
like he falls.
I was like, how stupid is this? It's like, this is a guy who's a professional hitman. He's able to hide in the beginning, everything and stuff. Somehow he can't do that. Like I said, the writing it was just like pissing in your face.
Well, that was the whole thing. And so the stylistic nature of it, like when the Transporter came out, I'm like, hey, that looks kind of different. Immediately caught my eye and I liked it a lot, right? So
Yeah.
yes, it's very European. America would not make that kind of film. So Luc Besson by that point had been very seasoned what he's doing. And here he's definitely going, hey, this is my type of movie, the way I want to do it. This is the type of movie he would make. I think to sell it to American audiences, it was built in to be sniper, professional, something that for probably 15 20 years now with Vietnam and all the movies he's watched with Dirty Harry and Rambo and everybody, to make it look like it's supposed to be that type of film, and it's not. The 90s I started to think there was a real big disconnect between the way they would market a movie versus what it turned out being, and this is just an example of it, because this is not about Léon, the professional, meaning he's an assassin. This is a story about her kind of coming of age, her relationship with somebody that happens to be an assassin, and they established that one or two things. It's a character study movie. That's all it is. It's over 2 hours long, and it's a drama. Yes, there's some nice scenes and some action stuff in it, but it's, to your point, just basically them talking, having glasses of milk, sitting in a shitty apartment, and Gary Oldman just like creeping you out, and look, I appreciate that he captured her family being scuzzy, because it's absolutely true. And everyone wants to sit there and say, well, it's about her, trying to find a good family and all that. Like, I get that. I understand it. But to your point, saying you don't like the ending, while Léon is likable, and when he dies at the end, that cements it as being likable because she took. Look, let me back up. The one thing we're forgetting to mention, RDV, and I feel bad. This movie has the most action a plant has ever seen in any film, because he's watering, he's nurturing, he's showing that he cares about something living. So of course she ends up like going back to the girl's house, the fancy one with the tuition, and explains to the lady, the headmistress, what happens. And they let her do it. She plants it at the end, and there's something about her that emphasizing her becoming kind of normal and gonna have a good life.
Yeah,
I get all that, but that's not American. That's just Euro trash kind of stuff.
If she's planting a house plant outside, she planted to die. She kills everything she touches. Yeah. Apparently, I didn't realize this is the Colombiana, or what's called Colombia.
Colombiana was supposed to be kind of like loosely a sequel to it,
because Luc Besson left the original film group, and started his own. The original film group would not release their rights, so they still own the rights to this movie. Yeah. So he said, "Screw it, I'll just get someone else. I'll just make the movie."
Is that Zoe Alexander? Zoe Saldana, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Zoe Saldana, the chick who played Gamora. And honestly, that looks like a better movie than this. Because I think he's probably learned from his mistakes with this movie. So,
I think he made the movie he wanted to. I just really do believe this is presented.
The extended cut is what he wanted to make, and then because when he screened it, people hated it, so he had to cut everything out of there. Audiences did not like the extended cut. We saw they were in the relationship that they didn't like, and I say it's relationship not because we were talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that he was having her out there taking her out on the hit jobs. That's what people were offended about. Not the Marilyn Monroe stuff. They were more upset about the whole fact that she was being raised to be a killer, help him kill people.
I see. I had no problem with that, honestly. I thought
honestly it made sense, because the people who become professional hitmen are the people who are come from troubled youths,
absolutely.
And she literally was born perfectly in that. And honestly, that would have been a great relationship, had they not done the ending they did. They just kept going and having her originally just. The sequel, Natalie Portman's older. We got older Reno finally bites it, and then she revenges them. That's what it should have done.
Yeah, and I think the nature of the troubled neighborhoods and him being good, I think he kind of basically had to emphasize that. Otherwise, it would have turned everybody off. Because I think this is the type of film where it's the classic style over substance. And I'm not going to say there isn't substance in here, but the substance you're speaking of, I think the American nature, being very prudish, generally speaking, even by today's standards, is what turned people off. And that's why they did like a 90-minute cut or 100-minute cut or whatever, to get rid of some of that stuff. So it's basically just the whole assassin apprentice thing. Because you and I saw it, and I still think the gold standard for it, the Charles Bronson mechanic one, because you can't be normal and have that kind of a lifestyle. And if you've known anybody in special forces or snipers or rangers and all that, even if they seem to be well established, it's not easy. And especially the more trauma that they've had in their professional job and all that too, even by somebody that's considered a good guy. It's not easy. And so you and I've talked about that extensively when it comes to like Rambo and First Blood and stuff in the 70s and how film didn't really know how to handle it and everything too. And I think this is just a stylized version that kind of almost demeans it, because again, it is kind of dark and heavy when they go in there and to whack the family. And you go, hey, the father is an asshole. He's trying to sex up his hooker looking wife in the bathtub when she walks in, when she's trying to leave. The kid was so cute, good looking, and he was underneath there, and the guy's getting ready to whack him, and they all die, and she's obviously getting physically abused. And of course, he's legitimately cutting from his supplier, so they're all pieces of shit. So it's like you want to have sympathy for her, but it's like everyone always tells you when you're younger, hey, stay away from damaged
I just
people.
want to know, in 1994, where was Transformers airing on TV?
When what?
Transformers, a cartoon, which had been off the air.
Transformers or Transporter?
Yeah. No, Transformers, the cartoon she was watching twice.
I think 84, 85.
Yeah, it was off the air by 90. It wasn't on the air anymore. It only went for like 1 or 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think it was early mid 80s.
So there was no repeats going on in the 90s. So
that's not true. That's almost everything was that, except for what was on Cartoon Network.
Bro, I grew up in the 90s. It was on airing in the 90s.
I was alive then too.
In 1994, Transformers: The Cartoon Generation 1 was not on TV.
Well, whether it was or it wasn't, we could argue, specifics. Maybe he wanted in there for a specific reason.
You can argue, but I'm right.
Well, I'm not really. I don't really care to prove you wrong on that. I think that's a sidebar that would take some research. The fact that I don't understand why that's an issue.
I just thought it was kind of, as I said, another far-fetched thing they had in here. I guess one of them really liked Transformers or something. I don't know, but
maybe it has something to do with his relationship with the movie studio and an animation studio. And so they said, hey, let's slip that in there, because that is kind of like advertising, right? Yes. So maybe there's something like that. So while you may be right in terms of the real world, I'm just going, there was a reason why they put it in there. That was not a rando thing.
It would have been better if this wasn't set in the 90s. It would have been set in the 80s. It would have made more sense. I'm just saying the way everything's shot in here. But yeah, it was filmed in France, and they just took the scenes from New York City outside the building. Everything was filmed inside France. So
yeah.
So maybe at the time in French, maybe it was airing repeats on there. Who knows?
You know what? That's possibly true. They would have to have, because they played music on it, they would have to have gotten like a release, legally speaking. Yeah. So I'm sure that's fine. And so again, remember, I always told you I could never remember the name of the one anime or whatever you want to call it. Probably saying it wrong, but I remember it was called Battle of the Planets here in the United States for a year.
Man. Yeah.
But it's G-Force or something or whatever, and
it's got
so there's derivatives that get chopped and sliced and put everywhere, right?
Yeah. That's the thing I can think of, because I'm like, why would they be airing in America? Because that makes sense, because it was off the air. But anyway, yeah, this movie is a bit of a slop mess. Gary Oldman's acting is over the top in this. I love Gary Oldman. He looks good. He looks crazy.
What did you think of when he would take a pill at the beginning of the scene, and then they do that weird kind of like head turn kind of thing, like he was like turning into a werewolf?
The Mozart thing, the whole thing, and he's listening. In the beginning was the best part of Gary Oldman's character. It's like that. After that, the movie just went downhill. I wanted him to be more of a bigger heavy. I wanted Leon to be an equal to him. I wanted a Joker to a Batman, but I didn't get that. I got a Leon who basically was a shell of a man of what we saw in the various first clips of him. How he's able to sneak around and do those things. Get the jump on everybody.
That was a cool scene though, when it comes out of the dark like Michael Myers with the knife to the guy's throat or whatever.
Yeah, and then
he's back into it. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Dial this number and all this stuff. But the fact that he said, like, we didn't get that Leon at the end. We got a totally different Leon, and that's what really made me mad, because the fact that how was Gary Oldman able to sneak up on him?
I was trying to think of the name of it and it escapes me. I don't know if I think it was Rose or Princess in chat that turned us onto it, but either this past year or the year before, when we do a lot of extra like Halloween type movies, we did a vampire movie. I don't know if it was in Ireland or England or something like that. And it was an older lady, and I think she ran like a brothel, and she had a young one and all that. It was in a small town, and it was modernized. And I remember that they kind of leaned into like the sexual themes of what it meant to be. And I said, okay, the way they're presenting this, I can kind of follow it. Again, I can't stress this enough. The way this movie is presented, it's presented as, again, it's Léon the professional. And it's like, no, it's really not, because to your point, that's what we get. We get a broken guy that has nothing, and he has to have this broken woman introduced into his life to basically feel alive again and have a purpose for living, or really dying for it. Because at the end, that's the whole thing. Gary Oldman, is the one who shoots him, goes up to him, and he puts the pin in his hand and goes, "This is for Matilda," and it just goes kabooey. And I'm like, I thought it was funny when Gary was like, "Oh shit," and then the whole thing blows up. But it's like, yeah, you're right. Was that necessary? I guess it was for
the ring joke.
Kill it. Yeah, because they referenced it earlier with that when he threw a grenade in somewhere. So whatever. I mean, it was definitely foreshadowing.
Yeah, like I said, the better ending would have been having Matilda actually, instead of her escaping, actually had a gun and shoots Gary Oldman in the back, and they walk out together. That would have been a much perfect ending. But I don't know why he chose to have him just die and then her just go kill a houseplant. The whole thing with this basically
water it.
So the huge controversy we've talked about there in the movie is that this when we had the Me Too stuff coming through here, sexual assault allegations were levied against Luc Besson in 2018 by Maïwenn. His 16-year-old wife at the time of the filming says the film was inspired by the relationship. She says that when Luc Besson and Léon, the story of a 13-year-old girl in love with an older man, is very inspired by us. They'd met basically when she was 12, and then when he was 29, and they officially started dating when she turned 15. Legal age of consent in the country, back in France, Then Benson married her at 33. She fell pregnant at 16. At the time of the accusations, Natalie Portman said it was complicated feelings about her Lolita-like sexualization as a child.
Yeah, because that definitely happens, right?
Yeah.
And then he did The Fifth Element. I think he was married to her too, right?
Yeah. I don't know if he was married to. Was he married to Natalie Portman?
No, I'm sorry, not Natalie Portman.
No.
The model that was there.
Yeah, I'm not sure when they divorced or whatever. Definitely, I guess she claims that she was groomed, and that does happen in Hollywood and all that stuff. But, so if you take that, I kind of want to watch the American cut, without the Lolita stuff, and I wonder how much better it is, and I wonder if it has a different ending. Honestly, if it's the ending and the same in all movies, it's gonna bomb for me no matter what, because that ending was horseshit.
It did okay in the States, I think, but obviously it was a big hit internationally. It's a great international film. Let's see what it's about. It's going to be different than an American film, and it was.
So the budget was $16 million. They walked away with $45.3 million. Not that much better.
Well, 3 times its base. In the States, though, worldwide, it had a much bigger gross.
Yeah, but so it was released in France. I don't know as far as what it was in the States, how much it made in there, but yeah. Overall, I mean, it was kind of a weird movie, and you even have the blonde babe in here, Maïwenn. I think she actually was the older sister, right? She gets killed, right?
I don't recall. Maybe.
I think she was.
Maybe. Yeah,
she
hated her. The older sister hated her. Yeah. It was just like, okay, look, I appreciate that we got to see some stuff we don't normally see in films. That kind of dysfunctional stuff. I don't like how dysfunctional stuff is portrayed as somehow, I'm so proud and powerful because I overcame it. Like you're using it as a plus, right? It's something that back in the day you'd be ashamed to have, or you'd learn to live with, or whatever. And so definitely had a different vibe to it. I don't think it's what people were expecting. I get that's what his vision is. I just
want to know how Detective Gordy became commissioner if he's killed people in this movie. But really cool scene though is the first the job that she goes on with him, and he's like, "I want you to." They put the gum on the door over the eye slots. They can't see out, and then I want you to knock on the door, and then
just
like,
whatever.
Yeah, he's got the book cutters. He's gonna cut the chain because in New York, So he cuts the chain to get in there. He holds this guy by gunpoint in his mouth, walks around, and then they look and they see he's got a little meth lab there. Not a little meth lab, but a little lab for coke and stuff. And 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 she basically she pulls her own gun and she shoots the guy, and it's paintball gun. At first, I thought she was gonna kill him with the bullets, and he's teaching her where to shoot and stuff. You know, you were here, not here.
It's like
chest.
one hiring.
Yeah. And he's like, "What the guy's like, what the hell's going on here?" And then he basically like he just shoots him, double taps him off camera, and then you see her. He's like, you see her. She's got alcohol or something. She's pouring on the table with all the cocaine packets. Like the guy was measuring it up and putting it in the packets, all things, and she lights it on fire. And she's like, "What?" He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, who do you think this is gonna kill? Not adults. It's gonna kill kids." You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a powerful message. You know, the anti-drug message. But I mean, like, yeah, it's this movie was kind of like daddy daycare with the. You know, with Gary Oldman as the villain, corrupt cop, and then you just got a guy who's just trying to like raise a kid. You know, let someone in his life because he's used to leave me alone. He gets 2 cartons of milk and that's he sits his drink. He drinks his milk. That's it. I was like, he's a professional assassin that just drinks milk. Remember, they all have their quirks. So
yeah, and I tell you, it's interesting because you and I had covered the Manchurian Candidate. I remember. The original one with Sinatra and all that. And I remember, I think we might have even done a sequel, but I remember discussing then too how that was one of the first major programs to or movies that come out that talked about predictive programming. I mean, you didn't hear terms like MK Ultra and all that stuff that you would hear now in the mainstream about what government would do behind your back and how people have lost faith and everything too. But now that's a bit more commonplace, and I still always bring up like Eyes Wide Shut and other types of meta type movies. This is not one of those, but it made me think of like what you mentioned earlier with the transporter, the stylish part to it. And of course, he was an overprotective father trying to save his daughter. She's, her and her girlfriend are basically following a band around, which read into that what you want. But the point is the evil Albanians came in or it's human smuggling and all this kind of stuff there too. And you're like, okay, it kind of has a grittier side to it. And that's in modern day times. I kind of like that. I mean, you don't see stuff like that all the time in movies. And I think some of that can add to a backdrop because it really wasn't an anti-human trafficking message. It was like, hey, you got to watch for shit when you're in Paris or any other major problem city because this goes on everywhere and it's evil and it's there. So I like that. This was not that kind of movie, though.
What did you think of the ending song by Sting, Shape of My Heart?
Once the Police broke up, I really tried not listening to Sting, to be honest with you, because I love the Police. The Police were tremendous in the 70s, 80s.
Did it fit the end of this movie? Like, did that song fit like for the ending? Like, I just felt
because the only solo Sting I hear is what Dream of the Blue Turtle and that one he did with that one guy, Desert Rose song.
Desert Rose, and then
with the guy going da at the end because Arabic music was hot there in movies, and end scenes for like a brief minute there in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I didn't care at that point. I just wanted to be done with the damn movie. If it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, I want Conan or something. I don't
right.
I wanted something that was a little bit more fast paced.
Speaking of Conan, Father's Day is coming up.
That's true, and of course, this is a reminder for everybody here on the Extreme Movie Show. Father's Day, we always review the best Father's Day movie of all time. And which movie is that, sir?
Yeah, it's Commando. We'll
be going live in Easy E or Greene. Hopefully, will be joining us yet again to review it, so we can find something different to discuss about it and the lack of positive male role models.
I think we should just discover. I think this year for Father's Day, we should just review multiple movies, not just Commando, but all of the Father's Day movies. They'll be like do like a top 10. But I don't know, but that's aside from this, what we're talking about here. Leon the Professional, I first saw it in the 90s on an independent film channel, and I couldn't get through it because I just felt like it was just kind of like not my cup of tea. Here we are now. It's like 2025, and I'm kind of wish I wouldn't have watched it.
I get it.
2 hours of my life, I could have watched, Commando instead. Something that was actually worth your time. No, the scenery was good in this. I love the camera angles. When, like you said, when people get shot or over. Yep. I love the close-ups. We talk about Michael Mann, what he did with Miami Vice.
Yep.
And the camera angles there, and you're seeing a lot of that put in here too as well. This movie was so dark and gritty, and that's what Luc Besson excels at because that's what he is in real life. No, but overall, Gene Reno could have been a bigger action star, but they decided to basically make this movie and not give it a good ending.
I liked him in it.
But for those of you in the chat, and also those who are watching this on the replay, let us know what you thought of this. Do you strongly like this, or do you feel like me? Or are you kind of like, I just kind of wish I wouldn't have watched it? Or you're like Rob, I'm in the middle. You know, it was all right.
Well, I think if you're when we talk America versus European films, Luc Besson's name that's going to come up.
Yeah.
This is one of the first movies that comes to. I think La Femme Nikita is a much better film than this.
Oh yeah,
but I had not seen that in forever. So on a second watch, like somebody said in chat, oh, I'm afraid to watch it again because maybe it might not be as good.
Do you know what though? Even the CW La Femme Nikita was good. Nikita show with
they'll remake anything
with Maggie Q was great.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what then? And that's the exception to the rule when someone copies something and makes a new show, because there was a show based off the movie too as well in the 90s on the WB, and they said to remake it.
I believe.
Yeah.
But, I used to watch that.
Overall though, like I said, this might be my first Jean Reno movie. I've actually seen him live action. I remember him in that Flushed Away movie. He was the frog. But other than that, I don't think I've ever seen him in live action before. And honestly, I didn't. When you look at this, you can't really see Natalie Portman. When you look at the actual camera here, that looks like 40-year-old Natalie Portman is a midget. Now I can see it on the cover here, but in the film, she doesn't act anything like you see Natalie Portman today. So,
do you think? Look, this is Natalie Portman's first movie. I thought she did fine. I thought she was the character. Yes. She comes across as annoying to me, and when I watched her in this movie, I went, "Man, I'd love to see her as a queen bitch." I'm serious. I'm saying that as a positive kind of thing. I think she's got that kind of juice. A lot of women don't have that.
She did do. I think that was her that did Peppermint. Was that her?
I don't know.
Or was that the girl from Alias?
I don't know.
I think it was her. Peppermint movie was her.
But you know what I'm saying? Like Miss Attitude. Like you know, I don't hate her. She has a look. I thought she was fine in this role.
Peppermint was Jennifer Garner, and that should have been like Natalie Portman film, kind of like that, where she's basically getting revenge on people, targeted and getting revenge. Because that would have been an awesome sequel to this. And that's what I said. I'm looking forward to watching Columbiana eventually and seeing what could have been.
I will just simply say I thought Columbiana was just forgettable, honestly.
If it has more action than this and actually has a character actually, you know, being badass through the whole entire movie, I'm all for it.
Well, I can't say Zoe strikes me as a badass in this film. I mean, she's not bad in it. It's like, yeah, okay, I've seen this already before. I've seen 90-pound Maggie Q beat everybody up when she redid that show.
Is that the one where she's in prison?
Yeah, I think so.
I see a clip of it. It looked all right. But
be interesting debate.
Well, we have one person that really liked the movie, and that's Desert Rose. Yes, this movie was Take Your Kid to Work Day. Yeah. So I wanted to say shout out to Johnny. What's up, man? Desert Rose. Ed, what's up, buddy? Great to see you here and live.
Yeah, what I learned from this movie was that, hey, yo, Ed, is that if you smoke, you survive, and if you drink vitamin D whole milk, you die.
And I gotta ask you, do you remember who this person is? I haven't seen this person in forever. This randomly shows up. What's up, Verity? That's right. Everyone's fair game. If I haven't seen you in a while and you pop up in the chat, I'm gonna single you out and say hello. And she says, I adore this movie. Granted, I was young. Maybe bad if I watched it again. Let me know, because this is exactly what happened to me. I watched it as a kid, and I was like, it's okay. You know, but watching it as an adult, it's just like I noticed things I didn't notice as a kid, because it's true. When you're a kid, you watch things, you gloss over things, and you kind of accept it. I'm kind of still that way with certain things because I really want to like something. I'll kind of let it slide. But man, I guess my problem with this movie is, and that's probably a personal problem for me, is the fact that I like when the good guys win. You know, this is a guy who wasn't a bad guy. You can argue, say, well, he was going around killing people. He's an evil person.
He had to have a hero's death, and you didn't like that.
And hero's death would have been him killing Gary Oldman. You know?
Or they're
take him out.
teaming.
Yeah,
They're almost surviving death by him or something. And they team up together to overcome the evil that's Gary Oldman. Yeah, I understand.
And Gary at the end, Gary Oldman's got the girl, and then they struggle. They have a cliche fight, whatever, shootout. Kind of like was on Charade, kind of like that. Yeah. But obviously the ending was kind of like it just felt like it was kind of like he didn't know what he wanted to do. He wanted to do an ending. And he's just like, oh shit, how do I end this? Well, we'll kill the hero because that makes everybody cry.
Again, the movie's all about her, and I see exactly what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, how it appears.
Yeah.
But if you go into it with the perspective, the movie's 100% all about her. Then that's all you need to. Then I think that's the center of the movie. It's not presented that way.
No, it's supposed to be Leon the professional, but it's about Leon basically meeting this girl who basically opens his heart, gives him a new outlook on life. And he gets killed because of it.
Mm-hmm. Like Dan Aiello said, his mentor, women are nothing but trouble. That's a joke.
Dames, nothing but trouble, Sammy.
All right, guys, we'll see you Tuesday night. We just recorded live our season 3, episode 1 of Columbo. Lovely, but lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'll just simply say that. Vincent Price is in it, actually. And we're going to continue to be doing that live starting that next week through season 3. I may be live with something else next week. And also, then Tuesday we don't have something planned, so we'll have something up shortly for that.
Also, yesterday we dropped the latest episode review of Sherlock Holmes. So I noticed that a lot of people have maybe didn't know we dropped 2 episodes. So because the one before this only had 7 views. So if you're a fan of the 80s Sherlock Holmes, check those out.
The Resident Patient.
Professor Pixel purposely went off camera so you guys wouldn't see his hideous ugly mustache. So
good night now.
Later, guys. Thanks for watching.